and I have, I don't know, $20,000 in the bank account. And I had no experience in buying companies. And there was another bidder from England who was about to buy them. The opportunity was almost lost. So Michael Eisner told me, you're an idiot that you're talking to me about this. Get out of my office. Go right to the airport, take a plane to Boulder, Colorado. On the plane, use satellite phone to tell these guys that you're buying them out. Don't worry about the money. Worry about the money later. First, secure that you can buy them out. So sometimes you are on the edge like this, and you need somebody smart to push you in the right direction, which is what happened with Michael Eisner. He gave me the push that I needed. I did exactly what he said, except that I went to my home first and picked some clothes. Because he said, with your clothes right now, to the airport. That was too much. So I went on a flight that evening, and I went over, and I was very impressed by that company. Went back to my investors, and I said, look guys, I really want this. Give me the money. Let's do a round of funding and buy the company. And they were very excited about this. So I managed to put it through. The acquisition and the funding occurred simultaneously, and none could have happened without the other. I could not raise the money if I didn't have a purpose for the money, and of course I couldn't make the acquisition if I didn't have the funding for it. So somehow I made it possible, and I convinced the seller that I had the money, and I convinced the investor that the seller is indeed choosing me for the transaction. So that was very, very instrumental for the company, because when we bought this, they had hundreds of thousands of family trees, they had excellent technology, and it was all sold very, very cheaply. You know what happened after we bought this for $2 million? A few months later, Genie was founded. Genie is a major competitor of MyHeritage, now a part of MyHeritage. But they raised money at a $100 million valuation in the first round. So imagine buying this for $2 million that had much more value than Genie. I was lucky, because if Genie happened earlier, the price for this would have been beyond my reach. The guy would have gotten greedy. So that was game-changing, but Benchmark eventually did not invest, because the seed investors brought all the money, and there was not much room for Benchmark. It was too little. But Accel came to Israel, a tier 1 firm, at exactly the same week where we were closing the round. And they met us, and we liked each other, and I told them, look, Accel, will you put $500,000 today or tomorrow? I needed money now, and you know what? My seed investors, they don't like VCs that much. So you can't use your lawyers. You have to sign the deal based on what was already negotiated with the angel investors. And you'll have a chunk of $500,000. And Accel did the right thing. They said, yes, we'll take it. So Accel were very flexible. They put the money, and we added them, and this is how we got the VC into the company. 1 month later, Accel came to us and said, we like what we see here. Now we want to invest $10 million. At a valuation that is double the valuation of 1 month ago. So we said, no, of course not. We said, of course not, because if the valuation is doubling in 1 month, what will happen in 5 months or 6 months? So we said no, but eventually we said yes. And after some negotiations, Accel invested in 2007 more money, not 10 million, only 4 million. The valuation was not double, it was far more. And Accel proved to be excellent partners. 2008, we got very lucky again. We didn't know that there was a financial crisis coming, which happened at the last quarter of 2008. And Index came to Israel. Index is a great VC. They invested in Skype and MySQL and many great companies. They fell in love with MyHeritage, and we closed the round quickly when the clouds, the financial clouds, were in the sky. A few weeks after we closed the round, there was a financial crisis, and no more investments took place. And we were burning a lot of money at that time. So if that round did not happen, who knows? It was extremely lucky. So that additional round of funding in 2008 of $15 million really allowed us to grow. But the financial crisis reminded us that we are very vulnerable. And it's time to start making revenues. Because we had a freemium model, but we were only doing the free and not doing the mium part. So we were slapped with this financial crisis. We lowered everyone's salary in the company by 10%, except that I lowered my salary by 20% to give people a personal example. And we developed a business model. The business model we chose was subscriptions. You would purchase a subscription on MyHeritage to build a bigger family tree and to have more features and have premium support and the smart matching that I showed you and so on. And it took off really well. The fact that we were free for many years and we had a good product allowed us to get penetration worldwide. And then, when we turned on the monetization, there was so many millions of people, millions of users to sell into, that we didn't have to spend a lot of money on online marketing. We already had all the users, and we could market to them. And so the only question is, did we do monetization at the right time? Maybe if we waited 1 or 2 more years, we could have grown faster. Because you know, when you are freemium versus being only free, free is sexier. The customers trust you more. They don't see that you have a hidden agenda to charge. So it's pure love if you're free. If it's freemium, they know that there is payment involved. So as long as you can stay pure free, it's great. But you know, if you're losing $500,000, if you're burning $500,000 a month, that's not so good. And so we put a big focus, I think, at the right time. And we started selling subscriptions. The subscriptions are going extremely well. We have hundreds of thousands of subscriptions. And the lucky thing is that people don't want to stop their subscriptions because it's your family history. You want to keep it for the next 100 years. And your son will continue your work, or your daughter, and your grandkids. So the churn is extremely low. And now we are very fortunate to have a new investment from Bessemer. Thank you, Aviad. So we raised $25 million in December, in the middle of November, sorry. And we are using this extra funding to expand and explode. So until now, the amount we raised was close to $50 million. Just to give you some numbers about MyHeritage, because Yaron asked for them. So we now have 72 million registered users, and they have built 27 million family trees on the website, in which there are 1.5 billion profiles. So there's more profiles on MyHeritage than on Facebook. The big difference is that most of the people on Facebook are living. And on MyHeritage you have 50-50. But I'll tell you a secret, everyone dies in the end. I know there is the startup if I die here in the room. It's their business. But you know, the deceased, the dead people, they can't be active users, obviously. And they can't pay you, but they're very important because first it differentiates us from Facebook. And second, the dead connect the living. If I'm related to each of you, each one of you in the audience, it's through probably someone a few hundred years ago or less who is deceased. So think of MyHeritage as a platform where all the family history is there, and it's like good wine. You know, Facebook data is not going to be very valuable in a few years, showing how you puked after drinking vodka. You'll probably want to delete it. But the MyHeritage data grows valuable every year, more valuable, like old wine. All the weddings and birthdays and family events, the meaningful photos, the meaningful stories. This is stuff you want to preserve for the next 100 years. So this is the big differentiation between MyHeritage and Facebook. And we support 40 languages. Languages are very, very, very important. Because the world is the market, and you don't want to lose parts of the market. You want to capture everything. Especially when your US competitors are typically more narrow in their thinking, and it's more difficult for them to realize that there are other languages out there and other cultures, and you have an advantage over there being in Israel, and knowing that you need to support many languages and that the Israeli market is obviously not large enough. Even if Netanyahu is installing the app, it's not enough. I'm not going to share numbers, I'll just show you two graphs of our revenues and our subscribers. So you can see that family history is a very big and very lucrative business. As entrepreneurs, I also give you a little tip for free. Whenever you're showing a graph like this, make it more narrow. The graph will look steeper. Just do it in 2 seconds and nobody will know. It's all psychology. So, a few lessons I've learned, and I really apologize if my experiences at MyHeritage are not relevant for some of you. Although I think a lot of us entrepreneurs have many things in common. So maybe what I'm saying here is relevant, and you'll find it very familiar. Success has many, many factors. It's hard to pin them down, but I think these are the four most important factors for an entrepreneur to succeed. I think passion is number one. If you really love what you do, if you enjoy what you do, if you sleep and dream about it, and if you think about it in the shower and when driving, how to improve it and what can you invent, then you have the passion and then you can convince others. If you can convince others, you can raise money and you can hire the best people and you win. If you are not convinced yourself, surely you can't convince others, and it all comes from your passion. Ask yourself if you have the passion for the company that you've founded. I'm sure the answer is yes. That passion is the number one ingredient for success. The next one is execution. Some people think that if they have a brilliant idea, that alone is enough for them to build a fantastic company and take over the world. But my experience says that in reality, your ability to execute is more important than having a good idea to begin with. There have been some companies with a bad idea, run by people with excellent execution skills who have been massively successful. There have been many people with a great idea, but they didn't have the skills to execute. Execution is about a lot of things, but some key parts of that are maniacal attention to detail. You really have to understand your business and go deep into details. And if people criticize you for paying too much attention to detail, there's no such thing as paying too much attention to detail. And also being able to follow up. Even if it means to nag people sometimes, and make sure that they do what they need to do, you really need to follow up and get things done. Getting things done is what execution is about. Third bullet is just pure hard work. Lots of sleepless nights. I think my record at Backward was 72 hours of straight work. That's why I needed 6 months of break after that. I think there is no success without hard work. Some people are lucky and maybe they can do it easily while they are surfing in Hawaii. I couldn't. Be prepared for extremely hard work and the price that you will need to pay in your personal life and family life. And the fourth ingredient, some people say it's the most important one, is just pure luck. Just like being lucky so that this guy in Dresden would like me and give me the face recognition technology, being compared to John McEnroe by accident, to think about the celebrity matching, and even the way I found my seed investors was pure luck, but that's part of another story. So you will need luck, but probably luck comes to those who deserve it. So if you do the first 3 steps, you will deserve the luck that you'll get in the 4th step. Now, something that is a little strange in Israel. Buying out other companies instead of being bought by other companies. So at MyHeritage, it happened to us by accident, like I said, with ProScript software. And after doing that acquisition, you know what they say about Israelis? that they run to tell the gang, this is Bella Heber. They meet a fantastic new girl and they interrupt the meeting to run out and tell the gang. So when we bought Cross Street Software, we did the opposite. We did not say anything about it for 8 months. Completely silent. Because you know why? You know why? Imagine if you're an American user and there's an announcement that an Israeli company bought the platform with all the family trees. You might say, oh no, the Mossad has my family tree now. So what you really want to do, you don't want to announce it too early. You want to spend all the work, import all the data, make sure the users have a very good experience when you tell them that everything was acquired, and now here's a link to look at your new tree on MyHeritage. It's looking great, you have more features and more power, and by the way, a few things that were paid for, we've made them free for you. You always have to show goodwill to the users when you make an acquisition, so that they catalog it in their minds as a good event, as a good thing. Instead of saying, oh no, this company from Israel took over, they will now say, this is a great thing that ever happened to us. So for 8 or 9 months, we didn't run to tell the gang. We told nobody. We imported all the data. We took the smart matching technology and we made it work on MyHeritage. So when we announced, we didn't lose more than 3 users out of 200,000. So this is about execution. And when you buy a company, you have to execute the integration plan, the PR strategy. And you need to be lucky so that nobody's going to leak it at the pub. So you always need luck. Now, these are 8 companies that we bought in the last 4 years. In our business, it is very important to buy other companies, because if you want to be the #1 family history platform, and there are some users already having their family trees and families in an existing platform, it's very hard for them to move over. A single user can move, but imagine how hard it is to move 50 people at once. So the way to move them is to buy them. And this is what we've been doing. Now, some of these acquisitions took half a year or a year of negotiation, and some of them took 1 day of negotiation. So there are no rules. I won't say which one here in the list, but some cost, 8 digits, like more than 10 million. And one of these companies in this list, the entrepreneur said, Gilad, if you will fly me to Israel business class and put me at the best hotel and take me to the best restaurant in Israel, the company is yours. So one of these great companies here was for a flight ticket and a good meal. One of the good things that can happen to you as you do a lot of acquisitions is that you gain experience in the process of how you negotiate and how you integrate. If it's in your company's DNA, you become very efficient in it. And you know what's the best thing about buying companies? If there's a good company out for sale, they call you. If you don't have a reputation of a buyer, they don't call you, and you sometimes miss a deal and your competitor gets it. But today, MyHeritage gets the phone call, and we get a phone call every week, because there are hundreds and hundreds of companies in our market, believe it or not. So I want you to think about acquiring other companies with fresh perspective. It's maybe too early for you if you're just starting your company, but as you grow, this is one technique of growing. Maybe you can get hold of excellent technology, an excellent team, users, data. Don't rule it out. Don't say buying another company is not for me. If I did it, you can do it. Everybody can do it. Just think about it. And if you consider yourselves, like me, marathon runners, you know that you're going to run with your company for several years until it is successful. You're not out to flip a company 1 year and do something else. And you'll be able to buy, as a marathon runner, all the sprinters. They run out of air. They can't do the hard work. They can't execute. So you can pick them up. Some of the companies here, they didn't have enough energy and passion to do this long term. I'll give you one case study about an interesting acquisition. This is a company based in Utah called Family Link. And this is the original team. And we bought them in November 2011. And we kept the entire team, and now there are more than 20 people. So it's an M&A success story. An M&A nightmare is you buy another company, it falls apart, everybody goes. An M&A love story, you buy the other company, everybody stays, and you expand. Family Link added historical records to MyHeritage. And these people are of the Mormon religion. They love genealogy and family history. They have an expertise in historical records.